The Smithsonian Faculty Fellowship Program represents a rewarding academic professional development opportunity for faculty at Montgomery College. The fellowships are a product of a unique collaboration between Montgomery College and the Smithsonian Center for Learning and Digital Access. It's the first of its kind between the Smithsonian Institution and a community college.
Maria Pedatkari grew up in the United States from the age of 3.5, living an energizing and exhausting biocultural life as an Estonian American. She says one foot is firmly planted here and the other is 3,000 miles away. She earned her BS degree in political science from the University of Maryland, spent 1 year studying at the University of Turku in Finland, and earned her MS in library science from Columbia University in New York. A 35-year career in public libraries throughout Maryland and an ALA USIA fellowship at the National Library of Estonia followed. She specialized in working with teenagers for many years, handled community and public relations, and served as a manager and administrator for a number of locations. Retirement brought her to Montgomery College's Germantown campus, where she has worked for 5 years. She calls teaching invigorating in what she fondly calls her own United Nations because of the incredible diversity MC offers. Immigration has been a fundamental part of her own experience, and Maria believes the current American quandary on the issue needs thoughtful resolution. She said the Smithsonian Faculty Fellowship could not have been more timely for her.
This is my communication lens for the 2015 Smithsonian Fellowship, and it has been an amazing year. My goal, was to use information about American immigration and Smithsonian museums as the framework for teaching Communication 108 in the fall semester. And through that teaching, to broaden my students' understanding of all three. I started with an assessment of students. What did they know about communication? What did they know about Smithsonian museums? And what did they know about American immigration, past and present, including their own? My students represented 22 countries. They spoke 13 languages between them. 4 had never visited a Smithsonian museum. 17 had visited at least one. As a first-generation Estonian American immigrant myself, the fellowship focus on immigration was especially appealing to me, so this has been a wonderful gift. The syllabus. I went and I looked and I said, what do I pull out? What do I leave out? The syllabus-specific assignments covered immigration articles, which I had the students read and report on, analysis of the museum's online sites, a group project with very specific exhibit questions, and an individually selected exhibit piece that was presented to the entire class as an information speech. The goal, and these were the basic questions, and you'll hear them later. I will show you one of the presentations. The goal of each group project was to collaborate and produce a piece to introduce the museum to Montgomery County College students. The choice of medium was theirs, but to keep them on track, I asked them to submit written answers to the questions in mid-November, just so it wouldn't be a last night kind of project. Half of my class visited the American History Museum and for their project, and the other half visited the National Portrait Gallery. I went on both Saturday field trips, and docents gave us the most amazing introductory tours in both cases. The results were pretty amazing on all levels of the project. The American History Group presented a video with group members answering the questions and pointing out the different things in the museums that had surprised them. And I'll show you that at the very end. The National Portrait Gallery group produced and presented a video using a street talk approach with interviews to introduce their museum. Unfortunately, that one you won't see. Individual information speeches were short and also focused on answering very specific questions. 2 to 4 minutes was the time frame. The subjects that my students chose, and every one of them was different, ranged from portraits of Alice Waters and her contribution to nutrition and healthy eating, Brad Pitt, and that was an amazing photo, that's a selfie, and Dolores Huerta in the 1965 California grape strike. To, and I don't have a picture of this, but to Maya Angelou, and the person that presented Maya Angelou actually read her poetry out loud as part of the speech, and how that had affected her life. And different exhibits like Medical Alley. The curriculum learning outcomes that this project met for the best way, as far as I'm concerned, are group communication techniques and problem solving, accommodating cultural differences in communication settings, and appreciating very diverse communication styles. Identifying and using different presentation techniques became very, very clear, and every student identified that as they went through the museums, and then used it when they did their own presentations. I added 3 learning outcomes for the course. In their introductory speeches, my students presented their own immigration history. Throughout the semester, they learned and they became much better acquainted with 2 of the Smithsonian museums and how cultural diversity was reflected in both the museums and in their own lives. The outcomes were very well met by the students as they were going on. And I'll tell you about which was the hardest toward the end. One student said to me at the end of the course that what surprised her the most was the way they were able to make the information so easy to understand, no matter what kind of vocabulary a person had. The number of pictures that they used and the amount of voice that they had all around the museum. They were very, very interconnected. The interactive parts of the exhibits were very, very well received. The variety of communication tools at the American History Museum connected to all of my students. They became silly. You've seen that picture before in another presentation. They laughed, they played, they really were joyous in that museum. Their attention spans varied immensely during the docent tours, and it was difficult not to lose them at different places. I was amazed to see the cultural gap that I had with some of my students. Several of my students had no idea what the ruby slippers were connected to, which made me realize that we lived in 2 very different places. Not being able to take photos in the dark fields of the Republic exhibit and many of the other things in the National Portrait Gallery had a very negative effect on my students. They were very upset by this. And their main suggestion at the end was, we should be able to have technology that allows us to take pictures wherever we go. So, SAC, you can take that back. In retrospect, if I had it to do over again, I probably would pick a different exhibit for this group. So it goes. My students were both positive and direct in their course evaluations. I was thrilled that 99% of them really, really liked the introductory immigration speech. That was rated as the best thing in the whole course, so they wanted to do that. What proved very difficult was the group work, And in the group work, they wrestled with their own communication differences and how to overcome them and how to negotiate them. That was probably the thing we did the best. This is what my students said, some of them. They said some other things which I'm not printing. The Smithsonian quote was a lot of fun and so informative. Then I always knew everyone came from a different background, but hearing everyone's speech on immigration made me appreciate everyone more. When it comes to immigration, I learned that each race has different cultures and beliefs, all unique in their own way. And my very favorite, we are all immigrants. It was very nice to hear the class say that to each other and to listen to that from each other. So this is the American History Group.
Hi, my name's Genesis. I'm 18 years old, and what I liked about the museum was that it was a lot of fun. The adventure getting there was fun. The people being there, it was fun too.
Hi, my name's Lindsay. I'm 19, and I thought the museum was really fun.
Hi, my name is Fabian. I'm 19 years old, and what I like about the American History Museum the most is that it has a lot of variety of exhibits that you can go see.
Hi, my name is Cyrus. I'm 19, and I thought the museum trip was enlightening.
Hi, I'm Abhi. I'm 19, and I think the museum trip was awesome.
Hi, I'm Pamela. I'm 20 years old, and what I like about the museum is that the artifacts that they have are real. It was really interesting.
My name is Max. I'm 19 years old, and what I liked about the Smithsonian is that it was fun and very informative.
Hi, my name is Jimena. I'm 18 years old, and my favorite thing about the museum was the hands-on activities and all the information provided.
Hi, I'm Emanuela, and I'm 20 years old, and I thought the museum was interesting. The value of money for American history, it connects to the histories of exchange, cultural interactions, and expression, political change, and innovation. The origins of money brought forward new technologies, and it portrays cultural messages. The money conveys art and design and the practice of collecting money, whether it was like through produce, through trade.
People from ages such as 1898 started traveling to the Americas to immigrate here and have a better life. People starting from ages such as 12 came here in order to better their lives, and has been something that has constantly been happening since then.
Atlantic slave trade started in Senegambia, 15th centuries and 16th century. In the early 1800s, slavery grew in both sides of the Atlantic. They used ships to transport the slaves, the goods and tobacco into the U.S., and the U.S. banned the importing of African slaves in the 1808, but slavery remained legal until the passage of the 13th Amendment in 1865.
They like being on film, don't they?
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I have to tell you a couple of things about this. First of all, this group had an incredibly difficult time coalescing around the approach. They had very different cultural communication patterns, and they had some real dominant people in the group. So it was really interesting watching them go through this and decide. And half of them work. So it was hard getting together. One of the group members, the young man, Fabian, invited the whole group to his house one Sunday. And so they taped when they were at the museum. They had questions, they had decided how they were going to split it up. So they went around the museum taping, and one of the members was a really good camera person. So they got that part of it done. And then Fabian had the whole group over for lunch, I think. And so it was in his house, and then they finished it, and then they had to put it together. So they did a lot of work just getting into a group communication mode. I was very, very impressed with that. They also divvied up who could speak in front of a camera. There were several people who were very shy, and I think, again, that's a cultural thing, who did not want to talk on camera very much, did not really want to look up, and you could probably see some of that. So they really worked as a group to get over some of these things. Probably the most lively group of people, they were very young. I realized in the museum, thought, I must be aging a lot. They were very young. So, all right, so I'm going to leave this and tell you that, number one, I learned a great deal about American immigration myself, and I did think I knew a lot, but there was a lot I didn't know. I learned a lot about my students' personalities, and that was really quite valuable. This semester, I'm incorporating immigration into my students' introductory speeches. That's going to become a change that I make in all of my courses. And I've added an analytical visit to the American Indian Museum as a possible extra credit assignment for the class. And I've already had one student who said, one of my grandparents was American Indian. Can I do that assignment? And I said, go for it. So we'll see. I've changed the order of my teaching because I think the intercultural pieces really need to start earlier than they did in my past. So I do want to say that I have new teaching tools. Very many parts of my life came together with this fellowship. I'm very grateful to Montgomery College. I'm very grateful to the Smithsonian Institution. The docents and the staff, we sent them a group thank you, but thank them again, please, when you go back. They're absolutely incredible people. And I'd like to thank our very own Sarah Ducey, Mimi Mann, Denise Dewhurst. You're all awesome.